Carol Brandt. I'm sorry that if you guys heard that there. I want to welcome everyone to the Table Talk series with Carol Brandt today. ElderWorks is a non-for-profit organization, and we welcome anyone that has any issues in looking for some type of senior housing or referrals for seniors. We are happy to help anyone out there. So ElderWorks also, I'm losing my train of thought, I apologize here. So with today's series, Carol, like she said, will take questions throughout the process and not leave them all till the end. And I just want to thank everyone for coming today. And with that, I'd like Carol to go ahead and start.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction. And also, I've got plenty to say about ElderWorks. I want to thank you guys for always being there for the many clients and the community contacts I've referred over the years. Emily, who was on first, she makes everything happen there. And Tamara is one of the amazing senior living advisors that you might reach when you call ElderWorks and need help. And to those who know me, I am absolutely ElderWorks' biggest fans. I'm also known as the Google search go-to person for people who know me, and I get calls for help on many topics, whether it's carpet, the closest garage sale, or senior living services. And so I refer to ElderWorks frequently, and I'm so glad that they're here in the community. We're just so fortunate to have this amazing resource. There's no other like it. I don't know anything else, any place else, any other people that I trust and feel as confident about as referring people over there. And I always get calls back thanking me. They cover a wide area, so it's not just around where their office is. So if you're here today, you've seen their communication, but you should see this ElderWorks team in action. When you or someone you know needs a plan of care, need a pre-plan for assisted living, nursing home, anything like that, ElderWorks is the place. And I've learned this from them over the years. They have vetted hundreds of facilities, services, and resources. And my firm is one such resource. They've checked me out well and allow me to speak to you today. And they produce this incredible resource guide. If you haven't seen it, they have it in their office. I have it in my office. I'm a supporter and a sponsor, and I'm in here, so I give it out to my clients. We're in here a few times. They've allowed me to do that for the many things that we do. But they produce this incredible guide, and I've had people tell me that know ElderWorks that they pay $25 for that, and they publish it every year, and it's free. So that's pretty amazing. So don't go it alone by calling strangers or asking friends who don't, who might not have had a good experience when you need something. There's just amazing and knowledgeable people there. But so hopefully you're not currently in a crisis right now. You're here seeking education and guidance today from someone like me to learn about the 3 ways to plan for the rising cost of extended care, also called long-term care without going broke. So I'm here as a guest speaker today as a resource of ElderWorks, just as they have premier and amazing elder law attorneys and other professionals when there's a need to speak in their particular wheelhouse. So as with medicine, most people would prefer specialists when given a choice. So I'm a specialist in long-term care, so they've chosen me. So I can speak to you on this topic because I'm certified in long-term care. I own an independent firm. Although we're not selling something today, I'm here to educate you. You can certainly go and talk to anyone you'd like to talk to about this, but I'm here as a resource if you don't have such a resource. I own an independent firm. I'm not controlled by any insurance company or any investment firm, and that means being free to talk to you about anything. I'm not restricted to quotas or incentives or anything like that. Totally independent means leaving no stone unturned. So I'm really passionate about helping people. And again, that means leaving no stone unturned, whatever it takes. Someone's been declined somewhere, I will find a way. I'm told I should have been a prosecuting attorney because I can really present the facts. The underwriters and the insurance companies know me for the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And sometimes it just needs a creative cover letter and some personal caring touch to get someone over a decline or a challenge that they have. But I founded my firm in 1983, married the love of my life, Jim Brandt, who was my technical assistant here a moment ago. I recruited him to join the business with me. And so my area of the practice focuses on long-term care solutions, like we're going to talk about today, other personal insurance, Medicare supplement, enrollment and other medical insurance, and life, disability protection, et cetera, for professionals. And we've got clients in all areas of Chicagoland as ElderWorks services people all over multi-state. So just because someone moves to Florida, North Carolina, Phoenix, we can still take care of them. Jim Brandt's passion is on the financial side. He loves to teach. He just loves helping people understand what they have, why they have it, and what it does for them, whether they're our client or not. We just like helping people. And lastly, we also have an employee benefits area where we help people with physicians, medical practice professionals, and everyday people with personal insurance needs. So not auto and homeowners insurance, although I have great referrals in that area, but I employ an amazing certified HR professional with a hospital background and benefits in HR before joining our team. So I was just thinking about this the other day, that many of us, I'll date myself here, but many of us have been alive for a number of firsts. First color TV, the first TV, battery operated calculator. I remember finding a receipt in my mom's after she passed away. It was $69 for this first, I think it was a Texas Instrument little calculator. First wireless cell phone. I didn't own a brick, but I was on a trip to Phoenix in 1991, and I rented a brick phone, and it cost me $450 plus the minutes. Pardon me, and so a few hundred more altogether. So what else? We had the first personal computer, the smart home, electric cars, driverless cars. We have Zoom meetings, all sorts of advances, civilian space travel. And I may have missed a few things, but there's one aspect of life that technology, it's going to be a long time, if ever, to just can't replace. And that is replace human companionship. And that's kind of the focus of what we're talking about today, is the power of touch, a hug. People physically helping people do things who cannot help themselves or who need some assistance in the activities of daily living. And this non-technology assistance is what many of us are going to need in our lifetimes as we live longer and longer. My goodness, if we have parents that are in our 90s, we're going to live a long time. We could be sitting here at 115, but yet still have more brittle bones and things that don't work as well because our bodies weren't meant to last that long quite yet medical technology is letting us live that longer. But that's what we'll chat about today. And just so you know, we won't be talking about prices because everything that I do for people, there's multiple ways of solving these problems, of finding solutions. Everything is customized for people. So we won't be talking so much about costs as we will about just talking about the rising costs and what can do and when to do it. Also, this is not a Medicaid discussion. But one of the ideas and concepts just to educate people and inspire you to maybe take the next step if you've been afraid and haven't done anything. So I'm here today because I've got a passion for helping people who want to learn, and we've got a changing world right now. And I'd like this to be a conversation. So let us know if you have something to say. You may have something that has impacted your life or something that's happened to a friend that would help others. And feel free to chime in, and we're going to have a discussion rather than a lecture. So what you see on the front, this Table Talk series, that picture of that building there, that's the historic office building that my husband and I bought in the mid 80s. We gutted it, gave it another 100 years of life. That 40-foot long porch. We have client meetings out there, weather permitting. There might also be a glass or two of wine out there after 5. And it's the place where we host the Palatine Parade judges every year, and lots of activities take place right outside the door. So we have a wonderful working environment, and we live not far from there, but we do not live there. That's just our business. Trying to go to the next slide. There we go. Before COVID, I wouldn't say nobody, but this particular PowerPoint slide said nobody wanted to talk about long-term care insurance. People talk about it later on in life, but since the pandemic began, it seems like everybody wants to talk about long-term care insurance. People are bringing it up. I'm getting calls from 40-year-olds. The gal that does my hair is 40. She's got a parent living with them, and she wants to talk about it for her and her husband, and also the parent that's healthy enough to get it. So a good majority of people over 65 will require assistance sometime in the future. And don't need to talk about scary numbers. I'm here to get you prepared, not scared. So you know what costs are out there now, and we'll take a look at the study. But when we talk about being scared, I mean, everybody's afraid of things these days, worried about growing old. We used to worry about dying too soon. Now we're afraid of living too long. So, but somebody famous said that 70% of the things we're afraid of are in 100% of our control. So planning for extended care, doing something about the rising cost of long-term care, having a plan in place, that's one of those things that we can control. So let's do that, not be so afraid of it. It is a myth that everyone must have a long-term care insurance policy. It's not true. But the fact is, everybody simply needs a written plan of care. You don't get in the car and say, I'm going to California without a map. So we just can't say, I'm going to need long-term care someday, and let's just wait until I've had a stroke, or I need, I'm in a crisis to put a plan together. Let's do this now. Let's talk about it. So some of you in this meeting might need this piece. So for others who know, bear with us. What is long-term care? So it's that personal care supervision that someone of any age might need. It could be a 16-year-old in a car accident, was paralyzed. My neighbor dove into a pool when he was 16 years old, former neighbor, and was paralyzed. So it can happen to anyone. Long-term care is associated with the effects of aging, but it can happen to someone at any age. Some of the things that come to mind that might require long-term care, also referred to as LTC. It could be the head injury we just talked about with the neighbor boy in the pool, a stroke, cancer, Parkinson's, heart disease, MS, Alzheimer's, other forms of dementia, diabetes complications. This is a time to pause. Perhaps some of you know someone. I've heard some really strange, interesting situations where people have needed care. So if we unmute for a moment, anybody have any other experiences with family, friends that have had something happen to them where they needed care that was out of the ordinary? It's from a sharing point of view. Don't be shy. Anybody? Okay, we can move on. So how long-term care works, you saw what long-term care is. It's that need for care for any reason. Long-term care, as I think about it, is a pool of dollars, a bucket of money. We want to accumulate and have a bucket of money that's there to be used for long-term care when and where it may be needed. This isn't on this page right here now, but once we have that pool of money from whatever source it's coming from, whether it's a traditional long-term care plan or other types of plans, it's coming out tax-free. So that's why it's important to have a specific plan. It can be your own money. It could be your pot of money sitting in a bank or a CD, but it's not going to come out tax-free. So as we see that bag of money in the middle to the left, generally, and you'll see this repeated again, home care is what comes first with family and friends. Then we might need assisted living, all along the way, care coordination services, and that's got ElderWorks written all over it, as well as some of the long-term care plans have people and resources within them once you have a plan. But on the front end, coordinating care, finding people and places, that's ElderWorks. And then lastly, we might need a nursing facility with a place to go. So from a risk management standpoint, we take protective measures and we insure just about everything else in life. And planning for long-term care is no exception, but what happens? We get health insurance to protect our wellness and keep us well. We have auto insurance to protect our transportation in case our car is damaged in an accident. We have life and disability insurance to protect our incomes, and we have homeowners insurance to protect our home, but somehow extended long-term care planning to protect our retirement nest egg gets put on the back burner. Why? Why? Because people have children and mortgages and college and other obligations, and they, like the 40-year-old at my hairdresser, 3 years ago, she would have said, oh, we've got plenty of time. But then they were both struck down with COVID and disabled for a bit. and the in-laws had it. And then they moved in with the in-laws so that they could better care for the one that has dementia. And now they're coming to see me for the 40-year-old hairdresser, her husband, and she's only about 67, the mother-in-law that is healthy, and they want to, be able to plan for what happens when she needs care, because the two of them with their 3 children can't quit their jobs, right? We never meant for our kids to quit their jobs to take care of us. The cost of care across the US, this was from Hancock, and they haven't updated it. It's from 16, but probably very similar, unless we're fortunate enough to live in that light gray, one of those light gray states. You can see what the costs are. These are averages throughout the country. People generally don't move someplace because of the lower cost of care. They move because there's family there. So, that this is just the way, just the way that it is. And things are getting more expensive with the labor shortage, and that's something that we didn't need. This is Genworth's updated cost of care survey. They've been doing this from 2017, and this is their 21. So from the homemaker to the home health aide, adult day, assisted living, nursing home, semi-private room. And what most people want, if they had to be in a nursing home, was a private room. So, we're looking at some large dollars there. I'm told, like Luther Village, for example, $140,000 for memory care. That doesn't cover everything. So it's like, where is this going to come from? So who pays for this? That's why you're here. Who pays for this? That has that yellow thing on it, that caution sign. That's not a caution. That's just like a stop and have discussion. So we may have some discussion after this. But because I mentioned to you that I help people with not Medicare Advantage, but traditional Medicare insurance, it comes to the part of the paperwork where we're looking at the fact that about 50% of them have a misconception, and even the most intelligent people, that Medicare will cover their long-term care expenses. My clients aren't necessarily Medicaid bound, but Medicare supplement purchasers look at that section and go, what do you mean? Half of them. So the truth is, we need to be able to cover much of these costs ourselves, either from our cash bucket or private insurance. If you go to the left, Medicare is first. There is up to 100 days of skilled nursing care covered by Medicare, and in the middle, Medicare supplement covers a portion. But we're talking everything under 100 days, and also the need for skilled care. This is following, generally in my world, it's following someone having a double knee replacement, a hip replacement, somebody having a stroke, could be heart related. But as soon as signs of recovery stop, if someone were in a coma, we are unfortunately diverted elsewhere to a long-term care facility, and then the bills start coming in. So in that first section, you can see assisted living does not pay, continuing care, retirement community does not pay, adult day not covered, limited coverage on home health care. This first column with Medicare is all about the need for skilled care and pretty much confined to that first 100 days. Medicare supplement is the second column, and I see the same thing there after 100 days. Does not pay, not covered, not covered. Medicaid, this is not a Medicaid discussion, but Medicaid does pay for some care. People generally, this varies state by state, but you need to spend down to $2,000 in countable assets. And again, ElderWorks has some amazing, very experienced, very knowledgeable, and perhaps you've sat in on some of their webinars from their elder law attorneys. And you definitely don't want someone that is not an elder law attorney or estate planning attorney specialist with some elder law expertise to be guiding you on those things, because pre-planning is essential. There is and I'll touch on this for Medicaid, there is Illinois is a partnership state. And so years ago, some legislation was passed that urges consumers to have some sort of long-term care policy in place, even if it's a small one, because it keeps us from having to spend down to that $2,000. For example, if we had $300,000 of long-term care funds in that long-term care policy bucket purchased in Illinois, a partnership state. When we went through that $300,000, the state would, as we go into Medicaid, and again, pre-planning chicken or egg thing here, can't wait till the last minute. The state lets us keep 300,000 in our own bucket, our own bank account, so to speak, without having to spend down to 2,000 because we had a plan. So you can see how it encourages people to have something. And then there's that fourth column is where we pay on our own. So we're pretty much on our own if we don't have a plan in place. So retirement planning and long-term care, as I said, we work with people on the insurance and the investment side, and we teach that long-term care is a significant component of retirement planning. Too many people in my business, even those certified financial planners, I found stop short and don't address this. And people come in and say, oh yeah, I'm fine. Like, did you see the numbers? Did you run the numbers? No, my planner said I'm fine. Well, telling someone they're fine is like not doing a medical exam at a doctor's office and just saying the person's fine. If you have to go through the exercise and do the work. You have to roll up your sleeves as a professional. There are people, I hate to say this, there are people in my business that are getting sued by the children of aging adults who have plowed through their assets, whose financial affairs have been handled by professionals that have not educated their clients on the product availability and the need for and run the numbers for long-term care. And it's if this were medicine, you'd call it malpractice. So it's just wrong. We need to talk about this. So preparation now, smoother life transition. So what's out there for us? Social Security, we've got our life insurance proceeds, got long-term care right in there. It's an important cog in the wheel. There's annuities and our Medicare supplement. So all these things work together, and all your professionals should work together to make sure that you've got the will, trust, powers of attorney in order, trust if your state calls for that size, elder law consultation ahead of time before it's needed, and then your long-term care insurance professional. So we all work together. So what do you do? Is this, let's make this just simple. It's kind of a 3-step process. So we've already established that living a long life is a near certainty in this day and age, and especially if you've got those older parents, and even if you don't. My mom died of an aneurysm at 63, and it's sometimes genetic, sometimes not. And my dad passed away of a lymphoma, but it was more environmental. He was a plastics engineer and worked with products and components and not asbestos, but epoxies and things that could have caused his. So I'm not going to assume I'm going soon. So if we understand the need and the risk, that's what we're doing today, is learning and talking about it. It's based upon personal experiences and knowing the consequences of living a long life. We're talking about that today. It's putting it on the table, developing a plan with someone or someone like myself. I do suggest that someone be certified in long-term care, because if you haven't had that certification, you could be talking to a life insurance person that only knows about life insurance with long-term care riders, and they're not qualified or legally able to talk to you about long-term care standalone products. And then being certified in long-term care, I've had extensive education on that. And I'm learning something every day. I am constantly sitting in on webinars and learning about new things, new ways. And so it's just a focus of mine, as a doctor would with medicine. So we develop a strategy to offset the risk for those who want help. I like helping people who want to help themselves. There's no arm twisting in this type of thing. It's philosophical, it's financial. Everybody does need it, whether the money comes from your own bank account or it comes from a plan. Everybody is going to potentially need this in some way or another. So, but it is a family issue. Who's going to do what? There's a risk to the family when there's no strategy. So we help develop a strategy and then do something. 3, implement, as in anything. Whether it's the trip to California, got the map, got the money, go. Implement the strategy, plan for long-term care, whether it's self-funding or a caregiving plan with family. Some families have people who are destined to care for for others. And maybe it's someone who's not ever, you know, developed a career, who says, yeah, I'm here, and Aunt Mary's got a little nest egg put aside, and so, you know, niece Nancy is going to help her, and that's a plan. So it doesn't have to be a product. You don't have to buy insurance to have a plan. Today is about having a plan. So if we think about a plan for care, let's just think about it together. Think about any experience you've had with family or friends needing care. Good memories, bad memories. Was it scary? Was it a crisis? These things, as our childhood experiences, help us become who we are, or the basis for who we are. Experiences we've had with family or friends needing care impact how we feel about it for the future. I was scared to death or saddened by a 65-year-old female that managed a cardiology practice who began having difficulty speaking. It ended up going to mail all over the place. Finds out she had Lou Gehrig's disease, but she also had, which is called ALS, but she also had SLS. I forget what that stands for, but it's where ALS affects the peripherals, but SLS affects the inside, the organs. So the first thing to go was her voice. And she didn't last 6 months, but I saw what her husband went through with their tri-level home. Not one of these 3-story brownstones that have umpteen flights of stairs, but just 5 and 5. There was a lift, but that doesn't matter when you've got a woman who's petite, 105, 110 pounds, but couldn't control her neck or her limbs or anything. It's hard. It's hard. And I said to my husband, someday we need to have a ranch someday where everything's on the first floor, because we have a 2-story and it doesn't have a first floor master. So that experience impacted how I feel and how passionate I am about talking to people about this. We got to have a plan. Her husband lost 50 pounds. It took him till 11 o'clock in the morning, her rising early, for him to wash her. He'd put her makeup on. She was just lying flat. She couldn't move anything. And then he'd get her downstairs, and then he'd feed her through her feeding tube. And, you know, just all she could do is basically smell a flower. It was really sad. Yeah. So fortunately, she didn't last long and suffer like that too long. So anyway, if you believe you could live into your 80s, 90s, or even longer, that impacts us. We might never require care, but if we did, how would that affect our family emotionally? And how would it impact our family physically, as it impacted this particular family? And how would paying for professional help impact our family financially if we haven't done any planning? So do we let it wipe out our kids? Not a good scene. So a plan of care, in thinking about it further, where would we want to receive care? That's kind of like saying, where would I want to be buried, or where do I want to go on a vacation? Think about it ahead of time so we can put that down in our notes. My estate planning attorney gives us this wonderful binder, and it's got all these sections and what to do and when to do it. So that in that binder comes our information about how we want to be cared for and what to do and who to call. Who would we want to physically provide that care? And who would we want to coordinate that care? We have to tell our kids ahead of time, before we've had a stroke or before we're in a crisis and can't help ourselves. So these things, just thinking, it's not too many things to think about. Who, what, where, when, all that, and then funding it. How are we going to pay for it? And what other planning have we done that we can share with our family? Like, okay, we've got this set aside for that, and then to go on from there. So if we take a comparative glance at preparing for long-term care, these are the ways. There's actually 4 on here, but we're going to be focusing more on 3 today. People like to think in terms of 3s, and 4 makes a very long conversation. So there's traditional long-term care. We're going to look at this in other slides, but traditional long-term care, all of these things help protect our assets, conserve costs, and provide care. And there's various different aspects and reasons. Sitting down with somebody, you sitting with somebody that, like myself, or me sitting down with somebody, we cover these reasons and help people get guided towards the right solution. It's not always a product. Sometimes it's just a solution with family that we help with, and we don't charge anything for that. If we do end up doing business, we're paid by the companies that we represent, without any favoritism, without any incentives. It's just doing the right thing. That's how we roll. So there's traditional long-term care. That's going to be, I don't want to say lose it or use it or lose it, but it's like your auto and homeowners insurance. You pay for insurance for the time that you need it, and it's there when you need it. Then there's a hybrid with a long-term care rider. We're going to talk about that. And then there is, and that has life insurance in it, where a smaller amount of life insurance, but it multiplies out to a larger pool of money in the event you need care. Then there's life insurance with riders. This is one of the newer ways to provide coverage that many people favor, although it's not a favor over traditional long-term care if the budget takes us to the traditional long-term care side. Let's talk about budget a moment. This is not a situation, the reason we're not talking about prices, like here's a chart, here's your age, and here's what it costs, is that there's many different rate classes. You might be a preferred best non-smoker. That's one rate class. You might be someone that has had some health history. You're not going to be declined, but you might be charged a bit extra. You have a different rate class based upon some health history, but can still get the coverage. So we can't talk about numbers because that's all custom, right? So as we look at these aspects here, the life insurance with riders is one price point. The traditional long-term care insurance is another. The hybrid involves a lump sum deposit. And then lastly, just briefly, there are annuities that you may have that could be exchanged for ones that have long-term care riders, or people with maybe with limited or no medical underwriting. Those are products that are easier to get for someone that has some serious conditions. Back to the budget just for a moment. We're not going to talk about price because it's all over the place, but I do want to mention this. If you had $100 in your wallet and you went to Mariano's to get groceries, you'd get $100 worth of groceries. We customize things that fit people's budgets. So someone walking around saying, oh, I haven't done any long-term care planning because I can't afford it, hogwash. You do what it is you can afford and do some planning. So we either say to someone that's moderately wealthy but still wants to do a plan, this is what it costs, and they say, okay, no problem. Or we have someone that says, I have $400 a month that I can put towards this. Can you customize a plan within that budget? And then we do that, just like going to the store with $400 in your wallet. You're going to come home with $400 worth of groceries. I don't want to even talk about gas, but that won't go very far. So we're going to take a look at traditional long-term care insurance. Extended long-term care, traditional long-term care insurance works like this. We looked at this on another slide, but just repeating, when the need for care first arises, it's generally, and you've probably seen this with everyone, people generally do not go right from their home and bed, poof, nursing home immediately. It's generally they turn to family members or friends and try to get it together at home and see who can do what and how we can best care for the person that needs the assistance. However, when the needs go beyond the ability to help, and let me tell you that when people have a plan in place, they're calling me long before, when they have a long-term care plan, they're calling me long before this person leaves the house, maybe a year or two, saying they're getting a little bit more feeble, where the family's all pitching in. People let family members go into nursing homes at the last possible moment. They really do pitch in and try to help if they have enough kids in the family and can do those physical and financial shifts, so to speak. So when the needs go beyond that family members, the family team ability to help, that's when extended long-term care comes into play. So this type of care lets us get in the setting that we need, that's right for the person. So long-term care plans cover us at home. Again, remaining at home as long as possible, but a policy can let us get the help that we need in the setting that we need, whether it's in the comfort of our home or elsewhere. Elsewhere would be in a care facility when more care is needed than can be provided at home. In my world, you can actually spend more on care at home than in a facility. That sounds crazy, but in a facility, you've got multiple people taking care of multiple patients. You can have one caregiver assigned to, I don't know how many people, but more people than one, where at home, everything is one-on-one. Everything is one-on-one. So When more care is needed than can be provided at home, if that happens, the policy would pay for not only the home care, but the policy that I would talk to my clients about, not piecemeal, it would be one that covers assisted living, nursing home, memory care, all of that. So how do we become eligible for benefits? We've got a policy, we've got a plan. Now what? Do we just make a phone call? Is it just something that our doctor does for us? Well, we're eligible to receive benefits from a policy if we're chronically ill and a licensed healthcare professional submits a plan of care. That could be a PA, it could be a doctor, it could be a nurse, but it is a licensed healthcare professional says and puts it down that we need assistance in at least 2 of 6 activities of daily living. We also call them ADLs. You'll see ADLs referenced further probably. The activities of daily living are bathing, dressing, eating, transferring, toileting, and continence. And that we need that assistance for at least 90 days. If you think about it, before you leave your bedroom and bathroom area, you have experienced an activity, almost all the activities of daily living. You've showered, you've transferred out of bed, you've gone to the restroom, you've taken a shower, you've dressed yourself, hopefully you're continent, and then going into your kitchen or downstairs, that's when the last one, eating. So we need to be able to get out of the bedroom, and if we can't, we're dependent in 2 activities of daily living, we're most likely needing assistance in more activities of daily living. So once we become on the right side, our policy has a waiting period. Legislatively, that was required when the government stepped in and said, let's make sure that these policies are all tax-free, because it was kind of gray when they first came out in the 80s. So standardizing the plans, the activities of daily living was one requirement to trigger, and then the other was a waiting period. So once we become eligible for benefits, that elimination period or waiting period begins. It's a minimum of 90 days. It can be longer. I've not ever had anyone choose a plan that went longer because the price difference wasn't enough to cover the difference in time and cost. So there's a waiting period before benefits begin. So we're going to be covering the first 3 months of it ourselves. So that needs to be in the planning too. That's one of the questions on the application is, what is your estimate of the cost of care for that first 90 days, and where's the money going to come from to pay for it? Insurance companies do want to make sure that someone that doesn't make too little money extends themselves too much to buy a plan that they wouldn't be able to keep. So those are questions to think about. So the elimination period, that waiting period, that starts on the first day we're deemed to be chronically ill and receive a covered service. Once the waiting period has been satisfied, benefits for the covered services are then they're paid to us each and every month up to the maximum pool of money or the benefit we've selected, regardless of the type of plan, whether it's the hybrid, the traditional long-term care, or the life insurance with the long-term care rider. As long as we remain, and the policies have different bells and whistles, so to speak, but those are the core things that run through those products. And as long as we remain eligible, for the most part, benefits premiums are waived. So once we're on claim, we don't pay anymore. So that's nice. As long as we remain eligible, benefits for the covered services are paid to us until we pass away or our policy limit is reached. So there's different types of payment options. So we've got that waiting period, and there's 3 different types of plans, 4 different types of plans actually. But now this is the way that the money comes to us. And there's choices and differences that someone that specializes in this knows about. But if you don't, your people are flying by the seat of their pants, and they shouldn't be talking to people like you about it. There's reimbursement versus indemnity. Reimbursement is where only the actual costs are reimbursement eligible. Bills and receipts are required. You need to use licensed caregivers and licensed facilities. There could be benefit limitations, meaning that non-qualifying services like grass cutting, food preparation, house cleaning, travel, going someplace, hiring a limo. These are things that might not be covered under a reimbursement type plan. Those are the types of plans that were out there first. Then indemnity. That's where the full long-term care benefit is paid to us as the policyholder. Some insurance companies do not require proof of the billed services every month. and licensed providers may or may not be required. Excess benefits that aren't needed. So let's say we have $5,000, $8,000 a month coming in. If we don't use all the benefits, we may, in some cases, be able to use that for that, paying a non-licensed caregiver, grass cutting, other home maintenance. Then there's the cash indemnity. It sounds like that's an ideal way to go, but it depends upon what plan, product, and company is best for you and your medical history and what's determined best. But there's the cash indemnity. That's where the full benefit is paid to the policyholder. No bills, receipts required. You get the full check every month. Care from a non-licensed family member is okay. So your niece, nephew, you can pay your spouse. That it's called informal care that is allowed, and there's no restrictions on how these benefits are used. Does that mean that you could just tap into it anytime? No. Remember the activities of daily living. You need to be needing assistance and have that written plan of care from that licensed professional that you need help in 2 of 6 of those activities of daily living. So cash doesn't mean it's just a cash bucket to take, but it's a cash bucket once you qualify for benefits. Let's unmute here. Any questions? I don't mean to go too fast, just aware of your time. And any questions on anything so far? We're talking about traditional long-term care right now. Okay. Now we're going to talk about, just briefly, but life insurance with living or accelerated benefit rider. Life insurance with living benefits might look something like this. You're supposed to have a need for life insurance. I have people that have life insurance, and when they see this, they say, I want this too. But there has to be an insurable interest. There has to be a need for life insurance for the insurance companies to say it's okay to do this. So you need life insurance. You might be exchanging an old policy for a new one that has features. But in any case, there's living benefit features now on life insurance plans that can have a chronic illness or a long-term care rider. And it can benefit us too. We can now use the death benefit proceeds ahead of time. This has been possible for quite some time in the event of we've been deemed terminal, but it's a newer feature, the last decade, let's say, that we can use the benefits for being disabled. So we can access either some or all of that death benefit, again, certified into activities of daily living. The rules are the same. So what's nice about this, whether it's traditional long-term care hybrid or the traditional, is that we, or the life with long-term care rider, is that we have the same rules for receiving benefits. With this plan, the death benefits and the long-term care dollars can grow over time. So the bucket of money that we start out with can get larger over time, and that's an investment discussion for another time and for a one-on-one. And these benefits are generally tax-free, paid out in either cash or reimbursement. So then we have the life with long-term care hybrid plan. So this is going to be a combo. So you'll hear this talked about as asset-based, hybrid, or combo. So an asset-based or hybrid plan, also from an insurance company, would look something like this. Take $1, $100,000, whatever amount. There's probably minimums, maybe 25,000 minimum or more, whatever. Currently sitting elsewhere. Reposition that with an insurance company and immediately have 2 to 4 times what you gave them in tax-free dollars if you need long-term care. What? That sounds crazy. It sounds too good to be true, but it is true. This is actually the product that does not require a physical exam, like life insurance might, depending upon your age. People under 50 can get up to a couple million these days without any exam. That's become crazy too, even with the pandemic. So let's say we put $100,000 with this plan. It's still our $100,000. It's still balance sheet neutral, meaning it still shows as ours. If you applied for a mortgage, it's not gone. It's redeemable at any time with no surrender charges. There's no fees. The person that taught me about this many years ago called it a free parking place. We're not going to charge you to put it there. We're not going to pay you any growth, but it's going to sit there. And should you need care, Where does the 2 to 4 times come into play? It depends on your age when you buy it. So if you put $100,000 in, you may have as much as $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 in the event you need care, to tap a percentage of that to send you a check every month, tax-free. And again, if qualified for long-term care, how do you qualify for long-term care? I need assistance in 2 or more activities of daily living. I don't mean to repeat that so much, but this is how we learn, is by hearing things repeated over time, and then we can talk about it ourselves. Over time, the long-term care component from this plan grows too, as does the traditional long-term care, because I put inflation riders on them. So we might start out with a $300,000 bucket of money with the first traditional long-term care plan, and over time it grows, even though our premium doesn't necessarily go up. There's a rider on it to increase the benefit because we have inflation, right? So with this plan, what are the options here? Well, if we cancel and don't need the care, we get 100% back of our original deposit. That sounds like the too good to be true thing, but it's true. These are premier A+ rated companies that have been around 100 years. They know how to do this. They have actuaries that calculate risk and reward, and less than 2% of the people that buy these ever cash them in. Why would they? Unless they have a crisis and they need the money. And if they do, they need it. They get back their original money or a portion of it. If you pass away and never need care, what then? Well, these have a small life insurance component. Depending upon your age, if you were 50, you might put in 100,000 and you might have a $140,000 death benefit. The beneficiary for that 45-year-old would get that $140,000 and just get it as far as a tax-free life insurance benefit. If you were in your 60s or 70s when you bought this, you might only get back your deposit, or the beneficiaries might only get back the deposit. But in no case do you get back less than the deposit, unless you need some care and then pass away, the last point. So we had $400,000 in there and needed $200,000 for care. We've used the funds because we only put in 100,000. So you get back what you put in less any care received. Do we get back the 400,000 if we put in 100? No, that's the extended care benefit. The beneficiaries get back the original deposit. That's the case in all cases. Industry update. What's going on? COVID-19. COVID-19 caused us to receive more inquiries about long-term care than I have ever received in history. And I didn't even have to tell people this. In 2020 alone, there were over 100 plan and pricing changes that occurred among the leading insurance companies. This is traditional long-term care and the life insurance with the riders and the hybrids. And I haven't seen a report that said a number like I saw in 2021, referring to the over 100 in 2020. The changes have slowed, but they continue. For example, that one of the top long-term care insurance companies suspended business to anyone over 64 at the beginning of COVID. When have I historically been sitting down talking to people, having that when I'm 64 conversation? When they're 64 and getting ready to turn 65. And now I'm hearing that people 65 and over can't get long-term care insurance. That was lifted, but it was pretty scary for a while. So there were age restrictions, there was repricing of plans. Wisconsin, they were misbehaving there terribly with COVID, and they got a huge long-term care price increase. There was suspension of some plans, as I just mentioned. The age restrictions have to do with peeling back, reducing the ages that you can cover someone. Some of them have gone from 85 down to 75. Some are back up again. And again, everything we do is custom. So don't worry about that. If you talk to someone or talk to me, the plan will be determined and we'll see what's available at the time. Don't worry about it. My mission here today is to take you from scared to better prepared, not worried about how old you are. And there were underwriting modifications that got a little bit tighter. And I'm going to tell you this now, because for those of you that haven't done this, they haven't said this to your doctors, I have a very close family member that is Mr. Trivia. This guy is a 6th degree black belt. which if you know anything about martial arts, he's had to memorize hundreds, if not thousands of moves and things and strategies and forms and all that stuff. Plus he teaches it, not full time, as a hobby. And he's also Mr. Trivia when it comes to movies and music, and every artist back, from the 60s, 70s, who sang what and when, and who was in the group and who's alive and dead. I mean, he just knows a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. In 2008, and he applied for long-term care in October of 2021. They pulled his records because he had a few things, simple things. They pulled his medical history, and in 2018, he said to his doctor one day, he goes, boy, I feel like my memory isn't the same as it was when I was younger. In passing, casual. Doing her duty, the doctor administered a senior evaluation, a senior exam. He passed with flying colors. It's got to do with memory, repeating words and things. He passed, there was no issue. So it was ruled out, and it was just that comment. The long-term care insurance carrier comes back, approves the spouse, and he was declined. I was shocked. I went back and they said memory issues. No, he doesn't have memory issues. The doctor wrote a letter. I'm really good at this. I leave no stone unturned. I did everything possible. The letters, the doctor's report, personal conversations. This case was taken to a national long-term care conference by my liaison. Talked to the underwriter, head underwriter, myself, the medical director, and they said there was a coach that came up that devised a helmet to protect football players who, so he patented this thing, and he was in his doctor's office said, boy, they certainly didn't have anything like this in my day. I wonder what kind of blows to the head I've taken. There went his chances for long hair. That comment on his medical history. I can't say shame on insurance companies. I can say I was shocked. But I'm just going to share this with you because I tell everybody that I know, don't talk, if you don't have memory issues and you don't need help, don't say anything like that. I'm not talking about defrauding or lying to your doctor or the insurance company. I'm just saying that neither of these people had dementia issues, yet those comments, because the underwriter said to me, for this family member of yours to say that, it must have been something. This is all, kind of arbitrary. A doctor didn't diagnose it, but if somebody goes around saying, boy, my memory is not the way it used to be, maybe they've got a problem. Now, this particular family member doesn't have a problem. He was just saying that he doesn't remember, the top 100 songs when he was 10 years old, So for him, it was, the threshold, the bar was very high, but I am able to get him. Fortunately, I am able to get him with a life insurance company that doesn't underwrite their long-term care rider. They will take him because life insurance wise, he's just fine. And they have a long-term care rider that they underwrite for mortality, not morbidity. That's another discussion if you need that type of thing. That's also another premier company. And he's not being shortchanged at all. He's very happy. He's getting a really good plan. But to say things, if you're not depressed, gosh, I don't want anyone who's sad not to report it and to say something, but saying things like depression, if you're not depressed, can cause harm in underwriting. And again, for the medical professionals in this meeting, please don't think I'm telling people not to admit you're depressed. If you're depressed, you certainly need care. And I'm not trying to play doctor here. I'm just saying that that things that we say, because everything is in our chart now, everything is typed into our medical history, and it's out there. So just, I protect my insurability. Even at my age, I protect my insurability. I don't say anything that doesn't need to be said. When I see a doctor, it's there for medical reasons, not to chit chat about, some crazy person in the community that's driving me nuts, and raise my blood pressure over a community thing. That's not to discuss with my doctor. So questions that come up. You guys are kind of quiet. We haven't had the interactive piece yet. Some people ask me, I've got an old long-term care plan that pays for nursing home only care. Can I purchase a supplement to cover other care? Yes, don't let that policy go. If that hasn't been priced out of your, out of your affordability. I think we have 41 states have enacted laws that insurance companies on the traditional long-term care side cannot raise rates more than 10%. um, that have been issued since 2014. So that's something to be aware of. Once you purchase life insurance, that's your rate. Once you purchase long-term care insurance, rates are not guaranteed, but in 41 states, including Illinois, we have some caps. People ask, could COVID-19 residual complications resulting in disability, would that be covered under a long-term care plan? Yes. If you bought it before you were disabled, yes. So people don't have to worry if they have plans in place. And there are many, many, many people that don't even know all the things, all the complications from the COVID episode that they had popping up every day. So yes, those kind of claims are not eliminated or restricted or anything. People ask if they have a history of cancer, diabetes, or heart condition, can they still get care? Can they still get coverage? Absolutely, absolutely. My client, other than this happened to this one person, that is the first time someone has ever been declined because I pre-underwrite people first. I pre-screen with anonymous name or no name, and I do the behind the scenes work and leave no stone unturned to get a strong green light before I ever put in a formal application. That's like applying for a mortgage if you think your credit is dicey. Why get declined? Why let somebody do that? I just had someone the other day, had a garage sale, a realtor sponsored it in my community. And she's 49. She told me that she applied for long-term care coverage 3 weeks after she had gallbladder surgery. Well, that was a red flag, first of all, to me. I'm not her advisor. We didn't know each other at the time. And she was declined. That should have never happened. You don't put an application on somebody that's in a recovery from a surgery. You wait until they're recovered, and then you pre-screen and find out how long you need to wait, so that she's now got that decline on her record. Now she'd like some help. We're not going to clean it up. We're not going to be able to get rid of it, but we need to overcome it by a thoughtful, careful, and sincere and true explanation to move forward and get her approved, showing her full recovery from her gallbladder surgery. And shame on that professional that put through that application at 3 weeks after surgery. I mean, I know she was laid up for a couple of weeks with recovery, and then it was done just a week after. It was too soon. She might not even have been released from her doctor, for Pete's sake. So, and then last bullet, before the sub bullets, how do we pay for the long-term care plan? Where is the money going to come from? Well, it can come from your paychecks or from your retirement savings, but it can also come from existing annuities that might have features that lend themselves to exchanging them for a plan that has long-term care features. Many people have that rainy day fund and use that hybrid plan for that money sitting in low yielding CDs or passbook accounts, or depending upon mutual fund situation. Sometimes there's a partial 401k withdrawal is in order. If that's all you have, then taking a portion of that with proper financial advice and looking at all the facts might be in order to lump sum, buy yourself some long-term care that gives you that multiple. Yes, you're going to pay taxes on that partial 401k withdrawal, but it might save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future. Cash value life insurance policies that you have now, the ones issued from the past, don't have necessarily the long-term care riders, but tax-free exchanges can be done from old policies to new. But I'll even tell you that you could be 20 or 30 years older than when you bought those policies or more, but the cost of insurance has come so far down because of people living longer that it is possible for a young purchased policy to be exchanged for an older person's policy and have more death benefit and even pay off the premium. We do that all the time. Wipe out the premium. And I only work with things where I guarantee death benefit, guarantee premium. I don't want anybody having, and many of you on this call might have people have set policies up for you where your premiums have increased, or you get these notices and you look at the fine print and it says, based upon this current low interest rate environment we've been in for decades now, that your policy is only going to last till age 78 if you don't put more money in it. That is not acceptable. I do not work with those plans. Lastly, RMDs, you might have some unused RMDs. People have required minimum distributions that they need to take from their their retirement savings plans all the time, and they just put it right back in the bank. Well, use some of that and get yourself some reposition that to get yourself a plan where you can then exchange that taxable money that you've got sitting in the bank for some tax-free funds to take care of yourself. Those are all sources. So I'm hoping this inspired you somewhat to do something. The fact that you're here tells me that you're interested in learning. Again, I like helping people that want to help themselves. So how about some questions now? There must be some questions. I heard 30 people had registered, so there's a lot of people here. And maybe
I
there's
have
some
a
spouse.
question.
Okay.
If we make an appointment with you, what would be most helpful for the materials for us to bring to that appointment?
A lot of the things that you'd bring would be things in your head, like your medical history, your date of birth, and things like that. If you have existing life insurance policies or annuities, those would be things to maybe grab the policy if you have it. A lot of people have trouble finding policies for some reason, but they usually can access their most recent statement. Most recent statement would have your current death benefit on it and your current cash value. I can't make a call and ask about those things, but with you sitting there with me, many people have, their agents have passed away or gotten out of the business. We can make a phone call there together and ask the questions that we need. So basically any existing statements that you'd like to have in hand that have your assets, and have them in your bag, and if and when you're comfortable to pull them out, you'll have them with you. Everybody on the call today, you are invited to call me or visit with me, offering a free consultation. Again, I like helping people who want to help themselves, and the only way to know if there's something out there for you is to have that visit. So you're welcome to do that. So anything you'd like to bring. And again, on that Google search bar, so you might have other things in your bag that you want to ask me about. So feel free, but please call. Perhaps Emily can send the link out with my email and phone number on it there, and you can also see it on the screen to write it down, whatever works. Did that answer your question adequately there? Anybody else?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I look forward to hearing from you. Any other questions? Any other experiences? Anything happened in your families that you want to share? Friends that are caring for others. There are families out there that don't have people out there that don't have family members, and I know of friends that have been calling on them and as well as taking care of their own family members. There's a lot of kind people out there, but boy, if you've got some resources to put a plan in place, it certainly would help your kids and the people that you love if you did some planning ahead of time. So it's good that you're here today. Anybody else? How are we doing on time?
Yeah.
A little
Carol,
over
this
now.
is Tam.
Yes.
I just wanted to make a couple comments. The story you gave about the gentleman and his memory could have been off the charts, like the highest memory you're capable of. And for it to go down a couple points or not feel as good makes him still above the masses. So, I learned this a few years ago, that the doctor's offices really write down everything you say. And you really need to be diligent on what you're saying, and not to say something that can happen like this happened to this gentleman. It's just,
Exactly.
that's not good.
Exactly.
So
I even spoke to the doctor myself, and I'm pretty good at getting people to do things with common sense, and she wouldn't take it off. She wrote the letter, but she said he said it, and he did. He said I did say it, and the reason he got declined, and no one else in my world has gotten declined for life insurance or long-term care. The reason I couldn't pre-screen that ahead of time is because he didn't remember that he said it, for me to know about it ahead of time to save him from that decline on his history. So it's
Right,
just like
and
having a ding on your credit report. You want to get it fixed.
right. And he was just like having conversation. He wasn't saying like, I'm concerned medically that my memory
Exactly.
is lower. It's not right. It's just not
He
right.
couldn't
And
remember
so
when Leonard Skinner died in a plane crash maybe one day. And so he says this to the doctor, like, oh.
Exactly. But you know, for the normal little person out there now, we've got to be diligent on how the medical field is doing this. I was also told if you say that you have 2 drinks, alcoholic drinks a week, they already ramp that up to 4 or 5 because they just assume you're lying. So, you know, I don't know, but I don't know. But I'm not liking some of the changes that way, and people just need to be aware what their rights are.
On that note, since we all have access to electronic records, people look at your records. I found something in my records that said that I had a fear of running out of food and that I have actually run out of food. That has never been in my vocabulary. I never said that to anyone. And it was somewhere in my chart and somebody's notes. So the first thing I did is I called that provider. I called, I think in the Northwest Community Hospital, tracked it down and said, get that out of there. Who said it? There wasn't even any notice to who I said it to, and I never said it. I've never worried about food. We have plenty of food. I've never run out of food. It just wasn't true. But that's a horrible thing to have on my history. If I were to apply for something, that would show up in my medical records, for Pete's sake.
Exactly.
So be a smart shopper. Look at your medical records and make sure the doctors have noted things about you that are correct. And if they're not correct, I do find that they can, even the physician assistant, I've had them correct things. They had medications down that were prescribed for me for an ER visit when I had some vertigo from some fumes I was smelling from my floors being redone. And of course, they gave me, I don't know, tranquilizer, and they gave me this, that, and the other. And I took none of this stuff, but there it was on my chart that I was taking this medication. So I had them remove that because it was handed to me in the ER, a script, and I never took it. So be a smart patient and look at your records and make sure there's nothing in there to harm you that you didn't actually experience. Good point.
And right. And just one more comment I wanted to make. Knowledge takes away fear. So none of us are looking forward to the end of our life and how that might happen and appear in our lives. But to have knowledge and to have a plan, it takes away that fear. So I encourage everyone to, you know, take away that fear by getting educated on what there is for you and your end of life and how it can look.
Absolutely.
So, well, Carol, I want to thank you. If there's no more questions, I want to thank you for the presentation. It was really enjoyable and I learned a lot. And thank you for the kind remarks to ElderWorks. We really appreciate that. And I wanted to remind everyone, ElderWorks is a free service. There's absolutely no charge for any family we help. So I welcome you to reach out to me or ElderWorks if there's anything I can help you with, as well as reaching out to Carol on today's presentation.
And just adding, Emily, this is not, they're never the same, but I'm also presenting, I'm also a guest speaker for ElderWorks September, is it September 15th?
I can
My
check
flyer,
on that.
my flyer is not in front of me. Do you have that handy?
Yeah,
I
hold
can
on
look
just a second. September 28th at 5:30 p.m.
9/28, 5:30. Okay. All right, so this will be repeated, although my front end part is never the same. But these ideas, these concepts will be repeated. I'll be a guest speaker for ElderWorks again, September 28th at 5:30 for people that work that you might want to refer to have them jump on that call, or if you'd like to hear this again, but don't listen to it again. Call me, be happy to answer questions for you one-on-one. There's no obligation, there's no cost. Happy to chat with you and get to know more people through ElderWorks. So thank you.